Welcome back. Now, we're looking at security. We have in the studio with us a security expert, Dr. Onah Ekhomu, as we continue our focus on the security situation in the country and the effects around the globe and how it affects Nigeria. Dr. Ekhomu, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, madam.
Let's begin with one of the stories we saw on one of the front pages here. Islamic State recruiting from Nigeria. That's a revelation from the U.S. How do you see that story?
Well, the warning signs had been there all along. There was this revelation, or in fact, a revelation that the son of a former CJ had gone to fight. We've had that's gone to Syria to fight for the IS, and we've had other stories and other cases of people going over to join. But what is really of greater concern to me as a security expert is that the radicalization of these people did not take place overseas. It took place right here in Nigeria. And there's an ongoing program right now, which I cannot give a lot of details of on air. But I mean, one of the things we know, and in fact has been brought to the attention of the authorities, is that there are groups here, IS elements here, radicalizing Nigerians, young Nigerians, not even persons who were brought up as Muslims, persons who were brought up as Christians. They are being converted. People who have circumstances in their lives that gives them kind of a challenge. You are not doing as well as your siblings, and you become a soft target for these people to talk to. So the question now is, what are we doing about stopping that new radicalization? Looking at the radicalization that is going on in prisons, for example, we know that that's a place, that is a breeding ground for radicalism and for extremism also. And what is going on, because we see what Boko Haram does consistently. The people who are radicalized in jail, they go and break them out so that they can become part of they get back in the battlefield. And the other thing that concerns me is that Boko Haram elements who are even in government custody are being released to go back and link up with their, their organization mates. So I have a problem with that, because it looks like we are not looking at causes or even correlation factors here. We just think that one day these guys will have a change of heart.
And it will end.
And it will end.
Okay,
and it doesn't work like that.
1 second. We'll come back. We'll just take a moment and nip over to Bayelsa and talk to our correspondent, Seun Okinbaloye, who is in Bayelsa preparing for the election. Hello, Seun. Seun, what's the level of preparation now? How's INEC and the people of Bayelsa preparing for the elections? Oh, we lost him there. Dr. Ekhomu, let's come back here. Emmanuel, you're going to ask a question.
Yes, I was going to ask, what could be the possible attraction for these young people to join these sects?
Well, that is the radicalization and the brainwashing. Now, let me tell you something. There's an unfortunate aspect here. What we have found, the investigations we carried out, have shown that a lot of this radicalization is taking place at night time because there is free telephone calls. Now, it's not like they bring people together in a room. Of course, there are places, there are venues, there are actual venues which need to be shut down by the authorities where this kind of hate message and brainwashing is going on. There are venues, and some of those venues have been known already, and the authorities really need to spring into action. Because this is the problem with Nigerian government action, so to say. We need to be proactive. We tend to wait and let things go very bad, then we now start reacting. We start playing catch up, and that's unfortunate. But now, back to the question you asked, the attraction. Well, there is a lot of appeal. Those people who give the message of hate, the message of otherworldliness, the message of perhaps quite a few virgins if you give your life, they know how they spin this thing, because what happens is a lot of young people are disconnected right now because of the difficulties of contemporary society. And what do I mean by that? Well, things are not going well, unemployment, perhaps hunger, poverty issues. I'm not saying that a hungry person has the right to blow themselves up. I certainly am not saying that. I'm saying these are kind of predisposing factors. Now, somebody comes along and says, look, it is because these people don't like you, we don't have a good government, whatever it is, the kind of rap that Boko Haram used to have. And but if you go, if you lash out, you become a warrior for God. So it's about fighting for God again. So they now link it back to the religious message, the religious narrative, and say to you, if you fight for God, then you end up in heaven and you get 7 virgins. So, I mean, I don't know if you see, and then somebody who's already low in their lives, and then we don't have a good social network system. We don't have an assistance, kind of an assistance program that sees and picks everyone where they are and tries to help them. We don't even know every Nigerian in this country. We just think we have 180 million Nigerians, but we really don't know how many we really are. Some sources say we have 200 million. So what is the real numbers? I don't know, Dr. Onah Ekhomu, I don't know, I can assure you. So the problem here is unless you're able to name every Nigerian, put a face, know where they are, reach them somehow, somebody. There are so many. Now, I'm not saying the federal government. Federal government is too far away. You have state governments, you have local government, you even have community heads, you have chiefdoms, you have district heads, like in the northern states. So these people can reach. You have family heads, you have religious organizations. So we must look at that narrative, that where is it, or why is it that all of us in authority, one way or the other, we are failing? Because I think the tendency is for us to think that it's the federal government. So it's because nobody is caring and looking at these people that it's easy for people to bring them somewhere and start giving them this message of hate.
Dr. Ekhomu, are you
they buy into it eventually.
Are you implying that we don't necessarily need to have a national database to be able to know every Nigerian?
It's a scalar. I mean, certainly we need a national database, but what are we doing about that? Because there's a lot of work that has to be done, more than what we are doing, more than just giving fingerprints to everybody in this country. There is much more work. A national database is a very cerebral project, program that you must work on. Check out all your hypotheses, check out all your assumptions, do toolming your assumptions, do assumption analysis, and then come up with something that is concrete, and then expose it to the to an epistemic community that is able to dissect it and tell you what your flaws are. Now, right from the Obasanjo administration of 1999, I was on your channel's television. I said it has failed. In fact, it hasn't started. I said it has failed. Because there was no need to prove your identity. And it's a problem. There was no need to prove your identity. And if you don't prove your identity, then anybody can say they are anybody. I can say I'm Onah Ekhomu because nobody asked me to prove that I'm in fact Dr. Onah Ekhomu. So I mean, and that's why it failed. And that's why successive attempts have really not worked. And this one is been in that same mold, is just is directive driven. That means go and give your this thing. If you don't, you can't go to the bank. Of course, people will give you what they have, and after they give you, then what do you do with it? So the most important thing in a national database system is the encryption. And what is the PKI that we have, the public key infrastructure that we have to secure that? That is the real test of it. Because if not, anybody, any good hacker anywhere can come and, in fact, dissolve your entire national database system. And so that's really, so there are so many problems with that. I don't even want to get into that. But what I'm saying at a regular Nigerian African level is we have many levels, starting from the family up, where people can, in fact, talk to, get to know their family members, find what the problems are, and then connect with the authorities, so that if somebody is being radicalized, they are getting this message of hate, this message of lose-lose mentality, suicidal mentality. Then you now say, hey, let the authorities step in. They can now come in, and then there could be a different narrative that might change that person's path, that trajectory. But you know, when you sit there and you do nothing about it, it ends up the way it's beginning to end up. Now you have ISIS coming here to recruit. Al-Shabaab has been doing his own recruitment here. And then now Ansar-Din might soon come from Mali to do theirs too.
Okay, some months ago, the government had this anti-terror radicalism program. You know, at what stage is the program at in now, and how operational, how successful has it been?